me to be a part of this, and also for really curating it in such a beautiful way with a lot of integrity and the lineup of artists. So I really appreciate that. I'm very touched by that. There are some challenges for me in presenting any kind of sharing like this. The first I would say is there are two main ones. The first is, as some of you who have been following my work for a long time, is the fact that I have no live music. And live music, of course, for me, for all artists, but for me, because a large chunk of my work is based on improvisation. So this is going to be very challenging for me today to use recorded music. So how I've kind of thought that I could be as honest with you and as true to my values when I share work, is that I have gone, in order to prepare for this little program, I have really gone into the Sahityam deeply, and I'm going to do 4 pieces. So I know the pieces, I've heard the pieces in terms of recordings, just through years of listening to it, but I've actually not rehearsed to them at all intentionally, so that I have no clue in terms of the number of repetitions of lines or anything like that. So that there is for me, since still a sense of adrenaline and uncertainty, which always very important for me in performance. The second thing is that I want to go back to what Lakshman sir, my guru, used to say, which on one level, he really kind of instilled in me this creative ability to flourish and to nuance and to develop an idea over a period of time, right? But he always used to say, as much as it's beautiful to take the audience through a journey of nuances and ideas, it's also equally important to be able to transmit that experience in a short span of time. So as much as it's nice to take the time and go somewhere, equally your skill as an artist is also, when needed, to be able to transmit that in a short space of time, whether it's just through the first 1 line or 2 lines, etc. So I'm going to take that challenge, which is something that I've not done for a long time. So today will be for me an unusual place that I'm putting myself into, and I'm still going to try to be actually as uncomfortable as possible, so that that sense of life element is very true to myself and to you. To begin, what I'm going to present are 3 Ashtapadis. I have specifically decided to present them to the recordings of Raghunath Panigrahi, because for me, when we perform Ashtapadis, regardless of any genre, the heart of it lies in that spine of Odissi and Orissa, even when we perform it in Bharatanatyam. So the tuning of the composition for me, even when I dance it with my Carnatic musicians with Purnima, I often ask them to refer to the Panigrahi recordings because of the nuances of that particular kind of musicality. So I wish to stay true to them in that sense. Also, I've chosen 3 Ashtapadis because I feel that the 3 of them reflect for me the inner content of the grip in which the Gita Govindam stands. The Gita Govindam, as we know, are 24 Ashtapadis by Jayadeva, and for me, the beauty of it lies in that it is steeped within the philosophy of the Jivatma's yearning to be with the Paramatma, rather as the manifestation of us, the Jivatma, yearning firstly through a physical perspective to then find the sense of moksha through that physical perspective by uniting with Krishna, the Paramatma. So the first Ashtapadi that I'm going to share is Lalita Lavanga. For me, why this Ashtapadi is very beautiful is because it really is about the experiential. Lalita Lavanga is where the Saki is taking Radha and introducing her to that experience of Vasantam, the experience. So it really is where we delve into how the external energy, the external environment of spring has an impact into the creation of Manmata. And Manmata, of course, aside from being Ananga, aside from being formless, is really a manifestation that comes from the mind. So how the external premise influences the mind in order to create that arousal of desire. Yeah, and also for me, what is very interesting with this Ashtapadi, when I've gone back to it, is that that element of smell seems to be very prominent in how what the text, the Sahityam is saying. The idea of smell being a very important sense to the how the Saki informs Radha about the pleasures of Vasantam. In my process, I have come to a space where I try as much as possible, aside from the Manodharma aspect of the work, I try as much as possible to minimize the use of hastas. So you will see very little hastas, I think, as I improvise, because I feel that it's very important that we don't rely on the language of mudras to communicate what we wish to communicate. The communication has to come really from a much deeper inner center, that kind of what we say, yato hasta tato drishti, yato drishtis tato mano, yato manos tato bhavo, yato bhavos tato rasa. So that inner experience has to really come from a source that is independent of the ornamentation of mudras. So I'll share with you the first Ashtapadi. As I said, I've not heard it I've not rehearsed to it, so it's really on the spot.
वसन्ते वासन्ते कुसुम सुकुमार वयवे भ्रमन्ति कान्तारे बहुविहित कृष्णानु शरणा आमन्दं कन्दर्पज्वरजनित चिन्ता वलद्वाधा राधा सरसमिदमुचे सहचरी ललिता लमंग लता पदे शीलन कोमल मलय समीरे ललिता लमंग लता पदे शीलन कोमल मलय समीरे Sukarani kada karobida kokila kujita kunga kujire viharati hariha sarasavasante viharati hariha sarasavasante nृत्यति युवति जनेन समं सखि विरहि जनाश्य दुरन्ते ललितलमङ्ग लतापरि शीलन कोमल मलय समीरे मदन मनोरथ वधिक वधूजन जनित विलापे अलिकुल संकुल कुसुमद मोह निराकुल वकुल कलापे विहरति हरिह सरसवसन्ते नृत्यति गणेन समं सखि विरहि जनाश्य दुरन्ते युगमद सौरभ प्रभसव संवद नवदल मालतमाले युवजन हृदय विदारमनसिज नखरुचि किं शुकयाले विहरति हरिः सरसवसन्ते नृत्यति युवति जनेन समं सखि विरहि जनाश्च दुरन्ते मदन महेपति कनकदण्डरुचि केशर कुसुम विकासे मिलित शिलिमुख परिपटल पिता स्मर तून विलासे विहरति हरिः सरसवसन्ते नृत्यति युवति गणेन समं सखि विरहि जनाश्च दुरन्ते ललितलमङ्ग लतापरि शीलन कोमल मलय समीरे
It's very beautiful, the tuning of Raghunath Panigrahi. There just quickly, very quickly, there are one or two things for me that was very specific. There's a line, Viharati Haririha Sarasa Vasante Nrityati Yuvati. Now, I know that many people refer to Nrityati as dance in a literal sense, so they show the ras or whatever. For me, when I was working on it, this concept of his dance really is a metaphor for his lovemaking. And his lovemaking is a metaphor for the psychological surrendering that he demands from all of us. So I felt always uncomfortable to be literal in the mudras that I used for Nrityati. That's why you would see that I actually used it as a point of love making as opposed to dance in that literal sense. Um, the next piece, actually, for me, I usually perform it when I dance it with Purnima or with OS Arun. I dance it for a long period of time. I'm going to condense it into 5 minutes because of what the recording is, but it's a good challenge for me. It is the Ashtapadi where, for me, the coming together of Shringara and Bhakti is so dominant. Nada Hare Jagannatha Hare, Pashyati Dishi Dishi. It is the Ashtapadi also where we really see all the different shades of Radha, from the Abhisharika in that first line to the Virahot Kandita to the Vasaka Sajja. You will see the different states, as the Saki tells Krishna of the state of Radha in that point. We experience the different states that Radha has to go through in order to find that union with Krishna. So on one level, for me, the beauty of the humanness of the experience of her what she undergoes. And yet at the same time, every time that chorus comes back in Nada Hare Jagannatha Hare, Sidati Radha Vasagrihe, there is an element for me that is so connected almost to what I would say derives from the Bhajana Sampradayam, of chanting, and through that chanting and the continuity of the chanting, finding the Lord as as Jagannatha Hare, as the universal Lord, and asking him to come and relinquish the human experiences that we are going through in order for us to find that divine connection. So it's a very beautiful. It's a very beautifully layered composition. Of course, as I said, I'm doing a recording, so it's only 5 minutes. So it's just to give you a taster. Again, what I hope that I can share with you, because I can't flourish into the sancharis that I usually do, is within that 5 minutes, is that experience of bhakti and shringaram. Yeah.
नाथ हरे जगन्नाथ हरे सीदति राधा वास गृहे पश्यति दिशि दिशि रहसि भवन्तो पश्यति दिशि दिशि रहसि भवन्तो त्वदधार मधुर मधुनि पिबन्तं त्वदधार मधुर मधुनि पिबन्तं नाथ हरे नाथ हरे सीदति राधा वासगृहे पश्यति दिशि दिशि रहसि भवन्तं त्वदभिशरण रभसे रवणोति पतति पदानि कियन्ति चलाते नाथ हरे जगन्नाथ हरे जगन्नाथ हरे जगन्नाथ हरे सेदते राधा वासरिये पश्यते देशे देशे रहसि भवन्तम् भवति विलम्बिनि विगलितं राजा भवति विलम्बिनि विगलितं राजा विलापतिरोदित वासक सजा नाथ हरे नाथ नाथ हरे जगन्नाथ हरे जगन्नाथ हरे जगन्नाथ हरे सेदते राधा वासरिये नाथ हरे नाथ हरे जगन्नाथ हरे
Actually, it's incredible that Raghunath Panigrahi himself, in that short recording, immediately transmits what I'm talking about. That connection of bhakti and shringaram. It's even through a recording. It resonates so much. Yeah. Okay. I will do now for me a very important ashtapadi in the context of Gita Govindam. Yahi Madhava. Why for me this ashtapadi is essential is it is the ashtapadi that is the trigger point where for me the equality of Jivatma and Paramatma happens. I think within the context of Hindu philosophy, what is very unique is the potential, the possibility for there to be an equality between God and human. I think it is also an ashtapadi that really demands many layers because unless one has experienced betrayal in this sense, for Radha, the betrayal that she experiences with the thought that he has been with someone else, with the physical evidence that he has been with someone else, it can never be one-dimensional. In that, I mean, it can never be pure anger. It can never be pure desperation. It cannot only be crying. It's so layered. If any of you have experienced, I think most of us who have lived life would have experienced really this idea of that kind of betrayal. One kind of goes through journeys of betrayal, hurt, anger, defiance. So I think for me, the purging, if you like, of all these emotions that Radha goes through are absolutely crucial. Also, choreographically, or maybe choreography is the wrong word because I improvise a lot, but in the execution and articulation of the Sahityam, for me, definitely removing the mudras is absolutely important, because I think for me the internal spine, if you like, of Radha needs to be the predominant mode of emotional articulation. So I use very little hastas in this. And just as a point, um, the last phrase from my memory that he sings is one that is for me a bit more descriptive. So I really refrain from articulating the meaning of that particular phrase and going into almost like a film, setting the context for Radha in relation to what naturally would be the next Ashtapadi, which many of you will know is Priya Charushile. So that's where the direction that in which I approach this particular Ashtapadi. Yeah.
रजनी जनित गुरु जागर राग कषायितम् वहति नयनम् अनुरागमिव स्फुटत् इतर रसाभिनिवेशम् याहि माधव याहि केशव मावद कैतव वादो ताम अनुसर सरसे रुहलोचन यातव हरति विषादम् मावद कैतव हरि हरि मावद कैतव पादम् याहि माधव याहि केशव मावद कैतव पादम् हरि काञ्चन चुम्बन विरचित नीलिमा रूपम् दशन वसनम् आरुणम् तव कृष्ण तनोति तनोरनो रूपम् मोवद करे तव वारम् हरि हरे मोवद करे तव वारम् वपुरानु हरति तव स्मर सौन्दर खर नखर ख्यात लेखौ मरकत सकल कलित काल धौत रिपेरि रति जय लेखम् मावद कैतव वारम् वाहिरीव मालिन तनहुगाव कृष्णमनोऽपि भविष्यति कथमाधवं चयसे जनमनुगत कथमाधवं चयसे जनमनुगत आसम शरज्वल मावद गये तव वारम् हरि हरि मावद गये तव वारम् याहि माधव याहि केशव मावद गये तव वारम् 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 वाग्देव चरित्र चित्रित चित्त सात्मा पद्मावती चरण चारण चक्रवर्ती श्रीवासुदेव रतिकेली कथा समेकमेकं करोतु जयदेव कवि प्रबन्धः आ आ आ
Okay. Whew. So, the last piece, and then I'll open it up for some questions. It's a very beautiful ghazal. It was introduced to me about 10 years ago, I think. And he was introduced by someone I love very much, and the setting was so specific. I heard it at like 5:30 in the morning as the sun was rising and all this kind of stuff. And I performed it for many years with Arun, with OS Arun. Um, Always from my perspective, my experiences of love. But then, last year, my father passed away. And one day I found out that my mom and dad had the most beautiful, I would say, the most beautiful romantic love affair ever. And as they got older, they kind of really found a childlike um, love relationship again. My father, towards the end, he would refer to my mom as his girlfriend still. And after my father passed away, I found out that my mom sleeps with my father's t-shirt under her pillow. So I always think now of this piece somehow for me, instead of it being about me, it has really become about perhaps a conversation that my mom would love to have with my dad. The ghazal, Aaj Jane Ke Zinde Na Karo, of course made famous by the beautiful Faida Khanum. I'm going to use the recording of her singing it. Again, I've not rehearsed it. I've heard it many times. And because I really see my parents in it, somehow I am not limited to also exploring the romance of the ghazal. As you know, the meaning is very beautiful. Yes, she asks him not to leave on this particular night. She says, please keep that promise. She makes the metaphor of the imprisonment of life and the necessity for us to be free of that prison. She makes a reference to the concept of the beauty of the weather and the necessity to be so in the moment now. Why would you let go of this moment that is so precious now by leaving? And as I said, I always think of my mom having that conversation with my dad, and not necessarily as them as a mature couple, but actually I kind of see it as my mother as a 21-year-old when she first got married to my father. So this is the last piece with Faida Khanum. I hope the sound is okay for you guys.
आज जाने की जिद ना करो, आज जाने की जिद ना करो, आज जाने की जिद ना करो, यूं ही पहलू में बैठे रहो, यूं ही पहलू में बैठे रहो, आज जाने की जिद ना करो, हाय मर जाएंगे हम तो लुट जाएंगे, ऐसी बातें किया ना करो, आज जाने की जिद ना करो, आज जाने की जिद ना करो, हाय मर जाएंगे हम तो लुट जाएंगे, ऐसी बातें किया ना करो, आज जाने की जिद ना करो। जाती है जब उठ के जाते हो तुम, जान जाती है जब उठ के जाते हो तुम, तुमको अपनी कसम जान जा, बात इतनी मेरी मान लो, आज जाने की जिद ना करो, यूं ही पहलू में बैठे रहो, यूं ही पहलू में बैठे रहो, आज जाने की जिद ना करो, हाय मर जाएंगे हम तो लुट जाएंगे, ऐसी बातें किया ना करो, आज जाने की जिद ना करो, वक्त की कैद में जिंदगी है मगर, वक्त की कैद में जिंदगी है मगर, चंद घड़ियां यही है जो आजाद है, चंद घड़ियां यही है जो आजाद है, इनको खो कर मुझे जान जा, उम्र भर ना तरसते रहो, आज जाने की जिद ना करो, हाय मर जाएंगे हम तो लुट जाएंगे, ऐसी बातें किया ना करो, आज जाने की जिद ना करो, कितना मासूम रंगीन है ये समा, हुस्न और इश्क की आज महराज है, हुस्न और इश्क की आज महराज है, कल के किसको खबर जाने जा, रोक लो आज की रात को, आज जाने की जिद ना करो, यूं ही पहलू में बैठे रहो, यूं ही पहलू में बैठे रहो, आज जाने की जिद ना करो, हाय मर जाएंगे हम तो लुट जाएंगे, ऐसी बातें किया ना करो, आज जाने की जिद ना करो।
Okay, so that's that. Let me see. If you have any questions, turn on commenting. Hello, 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 hello. Please, if you have any questions, let's use this time. Thank you so much. It's as I said, it's a challenge for me. So thank you, Gayatri and team, for putting me in a place where I had to challenge myself. Number one, dancing to recorded music. Number two, each piece, as I said, was very, very small. Anna, how do you always make us cry? Oh gosh, I hope that's a good thing, my love. What I can say is, for me, my responsibility as an artist is about honesty. For me, I think it's very important. There's a difference between, as classical dancers, about what we learn in our classical grammar in terms of execution, and then how we apply it as interpreters of an artistic expression. And for me, that second one is very important, because many times we have to understand then how the rules have to be very pliable. And what I mean by this, I talk a lot about this often, is how true are you to the intention of what the Sahityam is, not from a literal perspective, but from a subtextual perspective, and how are you best able to create a dialogue that is honest about where that Sahitya stands and where your experience is able to connect. Which means many times that grammar, that those rules have to be pliable. It's not that they don't exist, but they have to be pliable. So I think for me that's a very important thing, and it comes, I think, also from years of experience with genuinely a tremendous amount of freedom I feel when I dance now, because the rigor that my gurus, my main guru Lakshman sir, and subsequently all the teachers that I've had also, the rigor that they've instilled in me is so thorough that I'm able to really feel a freedom without feeling insecure that that rigor is going to leave me. Please talk about minimalism versus a formulatic approach. Okay, that's a big topic. My dear friend Vidya, who I love dearly and I respect a lot. Minimalism, for me, the minimalist presence is the most active. Often, again, there's a difference when, as performers or artists, when we start to execute so much that it doesn't give the space, number one, for the experience to happen. And it doesn't give the space for the audience to have a sense of ownership of how they place their own memory, their own experience into that dialogue that you are creating, most importantly, with them. Okay, that's a very small thing that I talk about. It's a much bigger discourse. And the last thing I want to say about formula is, which I talk a lot, particularly in Abhinaya, I think, especially now, Abhinaya has really become a very, with great necessity, it's become a technique in its own. When I was much younger, there was students who studied particularly Kalandini Mami's technique of Abhinaya. And there was a lot of people who just focused on Nritta. And then in between, there were a lot of people who kind of worked with Abhinaya, but I would say that they had not developed a technique of how to approach Abhinaya. Now, I think Abhinaya is much more important, much more present in training itself. But saying that, when we mean about formula and Abhinaya, for example, nuances that we have that might be they are all kind of steeped into our body memory, right? But the necessity to make sure that the application of that doesn't come from body memory, but it comes from intention. For example, I said it in the masterclass that I gave recently in Lalita Lavanga when we start Vasanti Vasante. Now, we are trained, our body memory is trained, particularly in Bharatanatyam, to have that sense of to look. Yes? But when we enter the context of the Sahityam there, what we are really talking is about the experience of Vasantam almost engulfing us with the impact of love. And as I said, if you go into the text really well, particularly Lalita Lavanga, it is about the sensory of smell. So the physical, one has to remove body memory from doing this just because we are used to doing it, and really um, delve into the physical premise of a body that is in awe of spring and smells that are completely permeating the body. So that's what I mean by staying away from formula, understanding what is, as I said, what we learn in terms of a practice in our grammar, but then what we apply in terms of artistic interpretation is something completely different. So I know that I need to get off for the next performance. Thank you so much. You have a lot of questions. I'm really happy to answer. Just send it to Gayatri and I will answer if that will help you. I just very quickly, Rojaka is here. Rojaka is my, I say with Lakshman sir, I was so fortunate because my seniors in our training were the creme de la creme of Adya Lakshman and Kalanidhi Mami. I had Rojaka, Jayanti Subramanyam, Nitya Kalyani, Brigaka, Meena Raman. 5 of them really were my sisters, still are my sisters, and still are so much the artistic influence for me as a boy to have seen how they delivered and interpreted Lakshman Sir's work. And he really always, for him, many people claim lots of things with Adya Lakshman, but I will say that for him, these 5 gems were his daughters, really. And so for me, as a child, being there and watching their interaction, individual interaction, because Sir really created soloists, like a lot of the old masters, was a blessing. So it's nice to see Akka here. Okay, I must leave. Thank you very much, my loves, and I will see you very